Alright guys, welcome back. Conditional statements are fundamental for controlling the flow of your code based on certain conditions. The if-then-else construct is particularly useful for executing code blocks conditionally. The if statement VBA is a fundamental construct used for making decisions based on conditions which can be derived from logical combinations of AND and OR operators. So you can have a condition that integrates the use of AND and OR operators, and it may be required in some instances, right? It allows for executing specific blocks of code when conditions are met. These are called the true outcome, and optionally, alternative blocks when they are not. We have the else outcome. So we'll explore all the different types of the if, then, else construct statement in VBA. Okay. Moreover, it supports handling multiple potential conditions. The else if syntax. So you have multiple conditions that you can construct on VBA using the else if syntax. And all of these together enables complex decision making within the program. The versatility extends further as the outcome of one if statement can itself become a condition for another. So you have a condition, and if that condition is met, you have a second condition. So all of these create an extremely sophisticated program flow control. In essence, the if statement alongside constructs like and OR forms the cornerstone of procedural programming, empowering developers to create intricate, responsive applications. All right. So I have a diagram here where you can see that I have a condition. If the condition is true, you have another condition. Okay. If the condition is false, then returns the results of what would it be if it's false. Okay. So we'll explore all of this, okay, in detail. So now, I told you about the if-then-else syntax, okay? So there are 5 types of if-then-else syntax in VBA that you have to familiarize yourself with. The first one is the if-then. So if I have a condition, then it's going to return me a true argument, okay? So this if-then statement does not account for a false condition. Remember that, no false condition, okay? And then you have the if-else, where you have, if the condition is true, it returns an outcome. Otherwise, this is a false outcome. Okay, so you have the if-else. And then you also have the if-else if, whereby you have a condition, and then it returns a true outcome. And then you have a second condition that can return a true outcome. Okay, so you can check for 2 conditions. Okay, so you don't have a false outcome if-else if, unlike in the case of if-else. But what if you wanted a false outcome with multiple conditions and a false outcome? Then you have to use the else and else if, whereby if I have a condition, then it returns me a true outcome. Then if I have a second condition, it returns me a true outcome. And then you have the else, which is basically a false outcome. Okay, so the else, remember, it's always the false outcome. And then you also have the if without an if, right? Meaning that it's the simplification of the first one, of the if-then, but it's all on one line. It's all on one line, and you don't have to include the and if. Okay? So here's just an example of how complicated the if statement can get, right? I have the if-then on the right here, example 1. And then I have the else if, right? And then I have the else. And underneath it, I have another if statement, right? With the else if, else. So this is what I meant, right? Basically, it's integrating the different types of if to form very complex logic flow control. Okay, so you're not going to master the if statement in a single day. It takes time, and you have to practice. Okay, you have to practice. And then I also spoke to you about the and OR, right? So the and OR can be integrated into your conditions, right? Whereby you may have complex requirements for your conditions, and you may need to use the and OR. Okay, so basically, when I have and, what I'm saying is that if my condition A and condition B is met, then I have my outcome. So and means both conditions have to be met. If OR, meaning that if I have condition A or condition B, that means only one condition have to be met to return the true outcome. And in the end, you need both conditions to be met to meet the true outcome. Alright, so let's do some practice to understand the if, then, else construct better. Okay, so I'm just going to insert a margin and write a procedure. If underscore statements. So the first one is the type 1. Okay, this is the if then. Okay, so let's look at an example. So I'm just going to dim x as long. Then x is just going to be 5. I'm going to say if x is greater than 4, then message box hello. Okay, and then I'm going to end the if. So this if then condition basically checks for one condition and returns an outcome if that condition is met, and it doesn't account for a false condition. Okay, there's no false outcome, right? Basically the else is the false outcome, right? So if I run this, it's going to return me hello. Okay, and that's the first type. The second type is equivalent. Is like first, but one line. What do I mean by that? Dim x as long, x equals to 5. I'm going to say if x is greater than 4, then message box hello. That's all. You don't have the end if because they're all on a single line. If I run it, it returns me hello. Okay, so we've explored the first two types. Then we have the third type, which is the if else, right? So the if else accounts for false outcome, right? So if the condition is not met, then it returns us a false outcome. For example, I'm going to do the same thing. Dim x as long, x equals to 5, and now I'm going to say if x is greater than 5, then message box hello. Else message box 5. Okay, so clearly now x is 5. X is not greater than 5, right? X is 5, so this condition is not true. Okay, so it's going to return us the false outcome. Now if I run this, I have to end the if, of course. Okay, alright, now if I run this, it's giving me bye. So it accounts for a false outcome. And then I'm going to fourth type. Multiple true conditions can be checked. Okay, so very basic example. Dim x as long. Again, x is just going to be 5. And I'm going to say if x is greater than, if x is less than 2, then okay. If x is less than 2, then message box hello. Else if x is less than 5, then message box hello again. Okay, I can't think of another message box. And then I'm going to say else if the third one, else if x is less than 6, right? Then alright, there's no space in the else and if, okay? Then going to say else if x is greater less than 6, then message box hello. I'm just going to say bye. Now we end the if. Right? So this is checking for multiple true conditions. Now if I run the thing, make sure that I've ended the if, it's giving me bye, right? Because obviously condition 1 is not true because x is 5, x is definitely not less than 2, x is definitely not less than 5, but x is less than 6, right? So you can check multiple true conditions. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you, what I wanted to illustrate here. Okay, and then you have the fifth type. Checks for multiple true and also accounts for false outcome. Okay, you gotta remember though that the fourth type, multiple true but doesn't check for false. Okay, the third one is there's a true, one true and one false. Okay, this one is just a true outcome and this one is also a true outcome. Okay, now what if you want to have multiple, check for multiple conditions, multiple true outcomes, and then want to have a false outcome, right? That's just when we use the if else. Okay, so basically dim x as long x equals to 5 again, right? Okay, if x is less than 2, then message box hello. Else if x is less than 3, then message box hello. Else, I'm going to say it's a false outcome, message box bye. Okay, so now x is definitely not less than 2, x is definitely not less than 3 because x is 5, so it's going to give me the false outcome, and then I'm just going to end the if. So if I run the code, it's giving me bye. Okay, so that's the fifth type. So make sure you familiarize yourself with all the different if syntax in VBA. Okay, so as I've told you that these conditions, right, it may not always be as simple as it is I'm showing you in real life, right? Because you may have the and or. Okay, so what are and or? And meaning the condition you're establishing, right? The condition you're establishing must be true for all the sub-condition. Okay, I call it sub-conditions because it's a single condition with multiple sub-conditions. For example, I'm going to say dim x as long, right? And x is equals to 5 again, right? I'm just going to say if x is, in the case of, let's go into the case of n first, okay? We're going to go into the case of n first so that we know what we're working on. So the case of n, right? Both must be true. Okay? So remember that if x is greater than 4, which it is, and x is less than 7, then message box hello. Okay, and if I run this now, it's giving me hello, right? Because both conditions have been met. Okay, but what if I say x is less than 4.5? Let's run it. It's not even giving me results, right? Because this is an if then. There is no, it's not accounting for false outcome. So I'm just going to add else message box bye, okay, just to illustrate this clearer, okay? Because I've told you that in AND condition, both must be true, right? They're both sub-conditions. in this condition must be true, right? So it's a single condition with two sub-conditions, okay, because they have an and there. So you can have three sub-conditions, okay? You may have and x less than 5 and another one, all right? And you can also combine it with the and or, right? So that's why we're going to use the bracket. We'll explore that, but for now, let's just run this, okay? Now it's giving me by. Okay, so that's the and. Both sub-conditions have to be true. Or one sub-condition has to be true. Right? That's what I meant. Basically, I can just copy this again. Right? I can just copy and paste it here. And now, x is definitely greater than 4, right? Because x is 5. Or x is less than 4.5. Is x less than 4.5? No. That is x is greater than 4. Okay? It's not less than 4.5. Now, so if I run this, I should have closed the end if, alright? It's giving me hello. Right? It's not giving me bye. So you can see that, right? You can see that or meaning only one of it have to be true. Okay? So we also have situations where the use of bracket. Okay, the use of bracket. For example, I can say dim, and this is something that even experienced programmers are not aware of. Okay, so now you will be aware of it and pass on the knowledge. Okay, it's very important for you to understand this. X equals to 6, y equals to 5. Okay, I'm just thinking of some numbers. Okay, I'm just going to say something like this. If x greater than 5 or x is less than 7 and y, see, I'm having multiple operators, okay, multiple sub conditions in this single condition, then I'm going to say then message box hello, else message box I. Okay, and then I'm going to end the if. And right now, right away, you'll be like, Elias, what is this? What is this implying? Is it saying that if x is greater than 5, or these two, right? Or is it saying x is greater than 5 or x is less than 7 and this one, right? So I'll tell you. Let us try to run this code and see what VBA is making out of it. Okay, what VBA is making out of it. VBA is saying hello, right? Why is VBA saying hello, right? VBA is basically saying if x is greater than 5, or basically VBA is saying this. Okay, why am I saying that VBA is saying this? Because x is greater than 5, x is 6. However, okay, why is it returning hello? Okay, it's returning hello. Okay, it's returning hello. Basically, it's a true. This condition is true because remember I told you in the or only one condition has to be true. So this condition is true. However, this condition is definitely not true. Why do I say this condition is not true? Because you have an and here. So these two here, right? This subcondition, they both have to be true, right? They both have to be true, and obviously, this is not a true condition, right? This condition is a false condition because y is not greater than 6. So you have a false and you have a true. And remember I told you, a false and true makes up a true in the or, right? So it becomes true. The condition is true. It gives you the result hello. What if I switch the bracket? And now you'll know why the bracket is so important. Okay, we'll see that in a while. What if I do it, instead of doing it that way, I do it this way? Right? Now, I'm not going to get hello. I'm going to get bye. Why am I going to get bye? Because I have an and here. Right away, I can tell you that even if this condition is true, right, which it so happened that x is greater than 5, x is 6, and x is less than 7, this condition is definitely true. Okay. However, Right, this, the and. Remember when I told you in the and, they both have to be true, right? Y is 5. Okay, so you have a false and you have a true. That makes it false. So this condition, hello, will not be met. It's going to give us by. Right? It's giving us by. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is use bracket. Okay, use bracket when required. Okay, because you can make the mistake of letting VBA makes its own assumption, right? You have to indicate to VBA where exactly is going to be your and breakpoint, where exactly is going to be your or breakpoint, and that is going to be the bracket. Okay, the bracket is extremely crucial. Okay, so as I've told you that we also have conditions where I have a condition that leads to another condition. If this condition is true, it leads to another condition, and that's something we'll explore in the practice exercise in the next example. Right? So that's about it, guys. I'll see you then.